Hey, this is Ramon, channel Alpha 4, and this video is going to be a little bit different. I have done supplemental videos for my other books that I have read. I have not done a supplemental video for the Quran. And today I feel it is necessary because I finally got to a verse that definitely got you guys to express your opinions a little bit more than you usually do. So I'm going to clarify some stuff right now just to be really clear about who I am and what I'm doing. First off, it is called Catholic Reads the Quran. I am a Catholic, which means I'm a Christian, but I am not a Protestant. I am not a Calvinist. I am not a Lutheran. I do not have the same beliefs as those denominations. I am a Catholic, and my beliefs are somewhere between Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodox Catholicism, which are two different branches, and my thoughts and interpretation of religion fall between those two interpretations, which are very similar to each other. One's a bit more dogmatic, the other is a bit more mystical. When it comes to the Bible stuff, not only have I lived in the culture and have, of course, heard the Bible every week in Mass. I've also read through the Bible all the way through 6 times. That means front to end. I've read multiple translations, NRSV, NIV, KJV, and the NAB. And I've also am now reading 2 translations in Spanish because I'm trying to learn Spanish. When it comes to the Quran, for a long time, the only Quran that I've had is this one. Okay, and I do not speak Arabic, and when it comes to my interpretation of theology, I am not a priest, I am not a pastor, and I do not do apologetics. I am coming from a strictly philosophical and literary standpoint in my interpretations. That being said, I did study philosophy, and I do know how to do research. So I do like doing legitimate scholarly level research, entry level, I'll say, but at least enough to pass a college course. I like to do that level of research when I read. So I do look up the hadiths, I do look up the commentaries, and so when I finally got to a verse or an ayat in the Quran that a lot of you didn't seem to agree with my interpretation on, it made me question the translation because I do not know the veracity of the translations like I do for the Bible. So today, I went to a bookstore and I read multiple translations. I read please forgive me for the pronunciation, the Maulana Muhammad Ali translation, and I read the Ahmed Ali translation. Plus, I have my the one that I've been using for most of my stuff, which is the Harper 1, the Saeed Hussein Nassar translation. So, and this one is the N.J. Darwood Penguin. And I also looked at the Oxford translation. Now, before I get into reading the 2 verses here, I want to say this, that in every translation I read, including the Oxford, it all had some type of fire metaphor. So it is in there. It is there. Okay, whether it's parallel text, commentary text, or plain English text, it's in there every time. Okay. And let me ask this. If I was to buy a secondary commentary, would you recommend the Amir Ali al-Quran, or to recommend the Maulana Muhammad Ali translation with commentary. I'm willing to buy a secondary source of commentary because, let's face it, looking stuff up on the internet is not exactly 100% reliable. And while I do like this one, there are limitations. I only speak English, which I've said in an earlier video. And I'm basically saying this to give you guys a clarification of where I'm coming from. I am looking at these books through an American's eyes, through a non-white person's eyes, through a Hispanic person's eyes. I'm looking at this text through a Catholic's eyes. And that is what I am interpreting and seeing it through. I can't help it because those are the things that I am. Okay? And I am not reading this for conversion. I'm reading this out of intellectual curiosity and out of respect, because I do think that a religion, especially one that is established and popular, should be given the respect of taking their ideas seriously, but should not be judged out of context. I just think that's the wrong way to go. So you shouldn't form an opinion on something without actually knowing what it says. And there are misinformers out there, and there are people who have an agenda and who want to push their agenda over facts. But I read a lot of ancient texts, and I read a lot of translated texts, and I read text that has parallel text all the time. And I am pretty good at telling what's a good translation and what's not a good translation, what flows well and what doesn't flow well, because I've read a lot of texts, everything from Mesopotamian to Japanese to Spanish to Greek and Latin. You start getting a feel for when the translator is using their own biases or when they're going for a direct translation. You just start to get a feel for it after reading enough of it. And I've been interested in ancient texts since I was about 15, and I've been reading ancient texts since I was about, if you want to go with the Iliad and the Odyssey, I've been reading ancient texts since I was in high school. So, but let's read out the line. And this is a supplemental because in my next video, I would like to continue on with the lessons. But I just simply want to read directly from the Quran. And I would like for you to, if you want, explain what I'm not understanding. Which, in my opinion, I'm understanding it quite plainly. And don't take that further than what I mean. I'm talking about just the verse. Okay. And in the Oxford, it actually says scorching. Okay. So here we go. And this is parallel text, so I'm trying not to get the parallel part in here. God has heard the words of those who said, God is poor, but we are rich. For their words we will record, and their slaying of the prophets unjustly we shall say, taste now the torment of the conflagration. Here is the reward of your misdeeds. God is not unjust to his servants. So again, here we go. God has certainly heard the words of those who said, God is poor and we are rich. We shall record what they said, and their slaying of the prophets without right. We shall say, taste the punishment of the burning. Okay, and then, if you get here to the commentary, it explains what it says. Okay, you see that? So, there we go. Now, I know that some people might say that, okay, translations are limited. Okay, well, how about the commentary from this one? Because the commentary from this one says the same thing. Okay? So I am not making this up. I am not coming with hate in my heart. I am not. I am just simply reading it as it is. But some of these verses are unsettling to someone of a Christian or Western perspective. And to say that they're not would be dishonest. And I'm not here to be dishonest with you. I'm here to be honest. That doesn't mean that I'm going to disrespect it. But understand that I am coming to these words from a Western and from a Christian, here meaning Catholic, perspective. In Catholicism, the way things are done are different. It is about peace and forgiveness. It is not about vengeance. It's not even about justice. It's about forgiveness. Okay? And that's hard for a lot of people to understand, but that's where I'm coming from. Forgiving all, no matter what, is hard to do. And it's a hard concept. And I don't want to be intellectually dishonest with you and tell you that some of my personal philosophies are not offended, because they were. And that isn't going to stop me from reading it. It didn't stop me from reading it. I've read much further. I plan to finish the Quran. But there are verses that are much more difficult and that are much more harsh. And I'm going to use the word violent, but I don't mean it in the way that some hate preacher means. I'm just saying that there are verses that are much more violent in the Quran than that. And it is sometimes hard to digest. Now, from now on, I plan on, when I get to a verse like that, so that way I can avoid some of the miscommunication, I plan on reading the verse out loud when I get to them. But understand that that does not mean anything negative. I read the Iliad and the Odyssey, and the Iliad and the Odyssey are books about war. And they're extremely violent and extremely cruel and harsh. And those are some of my favorite books of all time. So when I come to a religion that's of the Abrahamic line, which my faith belongs to the Abrahamic line, being a Christian and a Catholic, I am not looking at that as a place of judgment. I am simply acknowledging what is there. And for the one person who likes to comment on my videos that has been offended a few times, I gotta tell you, man, like, in Christianity, Jesus was crucified, okay? And he died for our sins. And the last will be first and the first will be last. The poor are better than the rich. The humble and peaceful are better than the prideful and the violent. And that is just what we are taught from CCD, from the beginning, from pre-K classes. That's what we're taught in church. And I know that in Canada and in other places, these kind of Christian teachings are not popular right now, and they're considered hate speech, and they're considered violent against, I don't know, people of my skin color, which I don't even get that at all. But anyway, I understand that exists, and so I would not do that to your religion. Okay, I will not throw the stones at you that the atheists throw at us, because that is ridiculous and foolish. And again, I am not a Protestant, and I am not a Baptist. I'm not a Lutheran, so I'm not coming at it that way. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a priest. I'm not a monk. I am not coming at it from that perspective. I have no agenda other than to read and learn about a religion that I have been curious about since one of my heroes, Malcolm X. Malcolm X is one of my first real historical heroes. One of the first people I ever looked up to. And after learning about him, when I was like 12, I became curious about the Quran. And I bought the Quran, I think when I was 15. And I didn't start trying to read it until, maybe I was 16. I didn't start trying to read it until I was in college. And I haven't tried to finish reading it until now. So I am not coming with a negative place. In college, one of my favorite professors was Muslim. Two very good friends, one a co-worker, was Muslim, and we would be the only people who wouldn't eat pork, because at the time I decided not to eat pork or shellfish or any of that kind of stuff for some reason. But I was, we'd be the only ones who wouldn't eat pork. We'd be the only ones who, it would be us and the vegetarians and the vegans would just have to eat a pizza by ourselves, because no one else would, everybody else wanted to eat all the bad meats, as they say. So we'd have our own little party in the back. But Jesus didn't hate the Jews. And the New Testament, for the most part, is not negative against Judaism. It's mostly people who would have considered themselves Jews talking to Jews. Now, that being said, to say there's not anti-Semitism in the epistles would be a lie. To say that there's not anti-Semitism or hints of anti-Semitism in John would be a lie. I'm not going to say that. There's obviously some stuff there. But for the most part, the Bible is written by Jewish authors, and it was written for a Jewish audience initially. So I don't, it's not the same. It's not the same from talking from the outside as talking from the inside. And I understand that, but I also understand that in the Old Testament, there is great violence, and that what the Hebrews do to the Canaanites and the Philistines is horrible and awful. And I mean that in the ancient form of those words, not in the current context of those words. And also, I want to add one more thing to the supplemental. This is going to be a very long video. I want to add this other thing to the supplemental, which is there is I'm going to assume he's a Christian. I don't know. He's not acting very Christian, though. Who keeps on putting end times prophecy, made up prophecy, by the way, on my video tabs. He speaks in the name of Jesus, which I don't like. And he calls for women to come to the Lord. He sounds like he's starting a cult. He is threatening to some of my, I'm going to call them viewers, and I will block you. Do not attack my Muslim friends. Don't do it. I will block you. I will put you in my spam folder. I believe in free speech. I absolutely do. I'm a hardliner on free speech. I just signed a petition supporting Jordan Peterson, and believe me, I do not agree with everything he says. I believe in free speech, but I am not going to let you use my channel as a platform to spread hate. That goes for anyone listening. But the only one who's done it so far has been someone who self-proclaims to be a Christian. I have been communicating with Muslims. They have been polite and peaceful. Some of the stuff that has been sent to me has been inflammatory, but a few conversations in, and we're all friendly. The only one who's not willing to play that game is someone who claims to be a Christian. Don't give us a bad name. I realize I'm talking about dicey subjects and that I'm taking a chance by even putting this out there. I get that. I get that I'm taking a chance doing this. I do not need someone like you who is hateful adding to that. Please respect my viewers. I'm talking about religion. I plan on talking other religions. I plan on talking about everything from Buddhism to Taoism on this channel. And I would like the people who are listening to my current readings to continue to hear what I have to say and think about other scriptures and religious books from other religions. And to do that, they have to feel welcomed. And I would prefer not to have to block anyone. So please be respectful, especially of anyone who is commenting on my channels. Please, on my channel. All right, that's it. This is going to be a longer one. It's going to take a while to piece together. I got to go work on another video right now, and plus I got other stuff I got to do, and I think I'm going to have to be looking for a new job. So I will be busy, so some of my videos are going to slow down at the end of this month. I'll try to keep on a weekly schedule. I don't think daily is going to be happening until I get some stable work coming in. All right, peace, like, subscribe. Enjoy.